Started. So today's webinar is on auto dealerships, some of the challenges, the solutions that we offer, and kind of a success story to wrap it all up. Um, Before we jump into the webinar, I did want to talk a little bit about who SCW is. We are a value-driven company that provides end-to-end security solutions. So whether it's video surveillance, access control, we do this with free consultations. We offer either a turnkey installation or a self-install. If you prefer to do it yourself, we can offer that as well. And one of our big difference makers is that we have world-class US-based support here. So for any issues or questions that you may have, our team's there to back you up. So let's talk about dealership unique challenges because there's quite a few with dealerships that other industries don't have to deal with. And one of them is the fact that you have open assets that are very, very expensive, right? You have cars that live outside. And in a lot of ways, you have to keep these purposely open, right? So your traditionally when we talked about somebody with, say, a security issue, we may start talking about, okay, what kind of fencing do you have? Or, what kind of barriers can you put up to sort of prevent people from getting there? Whereas auto dealerships don't have that luxury. They are purposely open. You want people to come and purchase cars and feel welcome on your lot. Um, and on top of that, these assets are targeted for theft and increasingly so. We'll talk about some stats later on, but it's become a more and more common thing for dealerships to be targeted. We know also, some of the regulations too when it comes to some of our dealerships, depending on what brand they're with, may not even be able to put cameras on the front of the exterior. So there's lots of things that we can work through to figure that out. But speaking of the stats, so this is from the latest FBI crime stats, which are dated from 2022, and over 12,094 vehicles a year are stolen from auto dealerships. And just to put that in context of kind of the increase of it, in 2014, it was 2,218. So we're talking 10,000 more per year, and it's only increasing, unfortunately. And um, this is not just targeting, it's targeting independent lots, smaller independent lots, as well as large dealerships. So if we look at some of the examples here that you see seemingly every day, I see this in my news feed of thieves go in and they steal $100,000 worth of cars. They steal sports cars. They steal 17 cars, like a daily occurrence from dealerships. So and it's not just the vehicles themselves, right? There's also vehicle parts, the parts that you guys store, the parts that are on the actual vehicles. And of course, the big one that we get tons of questions about every day is catalytic converters. Believe it or not, the theft is actually statistically lower in 2022 and 2023 than it was in the previous couple years around COVID. But that being said, it's still at historic highs if you compare it to just say 10 years ago, right? And with catalytic converters, the risk is that this can be done in seconds. And this is something that's performed by your professional, thieves at this that have plans. They know how to they block themselves and try to block themselves in front of cameras. And then your amateurs who come in and need a couple dollars kind of thing. So it can be kind of the gamut of people who are performing this. And then the other ones are targets are like your vehicle parts like tires, rims, and anything else you might store within your dealership as well. So either whether it's on the vehicles or it's stored at your facilities. And the how. Again, this is becoming a more and more organized. The reason why it's up 10,000 thefts a year is even though cars have honestly had better security than they were probably 10 years ago, it's become more organized, it's become more sophisticated. One of the most common things we've been hearing from our dealership clients is something called key swaps. And so if you're not familiar with what a key swap is somebody goes and they do a test drive, they act like a client, they act like a customer interested in buying the car. And then at the end of the test drive, they either distract the salesperson or they potentially give them a set of fake keys. And essentially what that means is that they leave with the keys and then they come back that next night and they take the cars very easily because they have the keys. So, um, a very increasingly common tactic there that this is something that you definitely want to work with your salespeople to make sure that they're making sure they got the right key back, that they got the key back, period. Making sure the serial numbers are everything, however you want to kind of organize that, but make sure that they're getting the right key back and that they're testing it because this is something that we've heard from multiple clients now. So, and then of course some of the other stuff too, like relay theft, grabbing signals to unlock and start cars, that's still a thing. And then good old fashioned breaking and entering, going in, breaking in, getting to the key storage cabinet, breaking that down to where they can actually just physically get the keys to. And then same thing for that in terms of accessories, the access to them are how they're actually able to accomplish that. If they're taking tires off of cars or stealing catalytic converters. So some of this you may already have known. You may have known about key swaps. You might have even experienced some of this stuff, but what can I actually do about it? So the first thing we want to talk about is video surveillance. And we want to talk about cameras in the sense that, virtually all dealerships that we encounter here, whether they're going for a renovation or they're building up. They either have cameras or they're definitely going to have cameras when they build the new location. And of course, it's for theft. It's also beyond theft, though. It's for intrude and it's for fraud. It is for making sure that the right person, all that kind of stuff that you need to have evidence for to make sure, hey, where did that person put that key? They can go back and actually find that. Um, and there's a lot of considerations with cameras. Not all cameras are created equal, right? And some people, especially if you have an older dealership or an older building, there's a lot of factors, even when you're building a new one, that you want to consider when you're shopping, right? And the first one would be image quality. The second one would be coverage. And the third one, which is a little harder to quantify, you can kind of tell if you look at the image or you look at the specs, what you might be able to get from the camera. Um, is usability and being able to use a software, being able to view all of your locations from one area, especially if you have multiple dealerships, you want to be able to essentially see them, manage them, not have to go to a bunch of different browsers to do that. But let's first hit on image quality. And what you really want to get from your security cameras is identifiable details and features. So if you currently have a camera system, you have to ask yourself, are you confident in the image quality? If there's an event, if somebody comes in and steals a car, or steals a catalytic converter, are you confident that you're going to be able to get an image that's actually going to be usable to give to police, give to insurance, everything? And is that also true day and night? Sometimes you get a decent image in the daytime, but a terrible one at night. And then details. The details when we're talking about this are going to be faces, license plates, things that are able to identify people. And another one that you can think about that's, somewhat related to image quality, but it's related to the overall health of the system. Are they reliable? Sometimes when you go into some dealerships and we're looking to do a renovation or upgrade their system, they kind of go, oh, this camera kind of works sometimes, or they go, this one hasn't worked for about 3 months or so, and it's a really important one, so we'd really like to get that one fixed. You want to make sure that you know that your cameras are working reliably 24/7, 365 days a year. And the coverage. You have to kind of consider when it comes to coverage that you have cameras in the right areas, right? When you kind of look at if you've had an incident, you go back and you go, man, I wish I had a camera over there. That's probably a good time to consider adding a camera, right? If you have gaps in coverage, it could lead to, incidents where you have no evidence for insurance, no evidence for the police, etc. And one of the challenges that we run into with some auto dealerships is that they don't realize that we can add cameras without massive infrastructure changes. So whether that's maybe you have a building that doesn't have a network connection to it, we can do a wireless bridge and add cameras to that. We can do multi-sensor cameras to upgrade to give you more coverage without even having to rerun a new cable. There's a lot of options there that don't just involve expensive rip and replace or renovations, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. And then I mentioned the usability. can you view your system easily remotely? So if you can't pull up your smartphone and view your camera system easily and securely, that's kind of a problem. And then can you view more than just one location? Can you view all your locations from your smartphone, from your computer? When there's a call that says, "Hey, we need to pull some footage," or is it easy, or are you kind of just dreading having to go figure out how to do this again? That's a big part that's a little harder to like I said, quantified on a spec there where you can say this is 4 out of 5 star usability and anything like that. So, you know, make sure you're looking at the software, make sure if you can get a demo, try it out, etc., to make sure that, you guys know that it's going to work for you in those situations. And like I mentioned with upgrading, upgrading can be done in stages. We work with so many dealerships that, whether it's the budget, whether it's the construction schedule, or just the desire of when they want to upgrade, we can do one or two things here, and then figure out, okay, in 3 months, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do stage two and add two or three more cameras or replace two or three cameras. We'll work with you to make sure we're fitting your schedule and your budget. Um, so you don't have to do a complete rip and replace, and you don't have to disrupt your operations while this is happening as well. That's a big part of it. Now let's talk about a little bit about specific camera choices here too. So one of the big innovations that's happening in the industry, and has existed for a while, but it's gotten more and more popular in the last couple of years, is multi-sensor. So what multi-sensor cameras are, if you look at this one here, it's a camera that has essentially two cameras in one body or multiple cameras in one body. And so the key advantage of this is that you only need to run a single Ethernet cable to it. So what that means is that when we're talking about install costs and install time of, getting the system up and running, it's going to reduce the amount of time because there's only one cable being run. There's only one camera that has to be, installed physically there. And it also presents a great option for people who already have an Ethernet cable there. There's so many times where we go to again, a retrofit and they're looking for more coverage in the lowest cost possible. And we can look at, okay, you already have a camera here. Let's install a multi-sensor camera to make sure that we can get this area and this area. And you can kind of see what this looks like here. This one camera is kind of pointed here towards the entrance and the desk there, and the other one's pointed down the hallway. So we can do a lot of options with this. Um, and we have this two lens option here. And then we also will have a 4 lens option here around by the end of the year. So you can get up to 4 camera feeds from just a single Ethernet cable. So these are popular, like I said, in both, new installs because labor costs are, higher than they've ever been to install things. So reducing the amount of hours you have to do to install something is really beneficial. And then of course for upgrading a single camera to multiple cameras as well. And then this one over here, which we'll talk about a little bit later too, is a PTZ camera. So you can move this one around, and it also still has a fixed lens up front, which gives you kind of a wider coverage. And then the other one acts as your detail camera. So, and then another big specifically for auto dealerships is license plate recognition. So um, this is a big request that we get from most of our dealership clients. They want to easily be able to search and download plate data. So our solution involves a camera. It's a specific camera that has a license plate solution, um, recognition built into it. And what it does is when you combine it with one of our NVRs, it will actually log the plates automatically. You can easily search for plates. So you can put in plate numbers. You can export all the plates from today or yesterday. And so there's a lot of functionality there that makes it much easier to see kind of what's going on at your dealership that day. Um, One of the nice advantages of our license plate recognition solution is that there is no monthly fees associated with it. So once you purchase a camera and you have the NVR, you're not going to pay monthly or anything like that to utilize this. So lots of functionality there. In fact, we actually just had a webinar last month on license plate recognition. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us or take a look at our archive of that. And we're happy to go more into detail on a bunch of different stuff it can do from whitelist, blacklist, alerts, etc. So The other really popular camera choice for some of our auto dealerships is a PTZ camera. Like I mentioned before, this is a camera that you can control from basically anywhere. You can control it from your smartphone, your computer, right there on the NVR if you want to. And this just allows somebody to grab the PTZ, move it around, see what's going on. Our sales managers really love this because they can kind of keep a track on what's going on and, if somebody's on the lot, how long it takes somebody to go and talk to that person. And there's actually a lot to do with PTZs. I could spend an hour here talking about PTZs with you, including some automation options like being able to do preset, which is kind of a bookmark. So you can have one say at your front entrance. You click a button and it automatically jumps over to that front entrance. Or you can have one that's on your kind of like the car wash area, right? You have a car wash button, you click it, and it brings you to the car wash. There's a lot of automation options within there. And like I said, I could talk about an hour for it, and I will probably next month. So we'll have a PTZ webinar if you're interested. That will be our next webinar next month. But of course, if you have any questions about PTZs or anything like that, certainly feel free to reach out to us as well. And then expertise. This is where every single dealership we encounter is a little different, right? There's different unique needs, there's challenges, there's budgets, considerations. Like we know about, we can't put certain brands, we can't put certain cameras in certain places. That's where having that expertise is really vital, right? And whether you're somebody looking for a turnkey installation where, we go in, we figure out where the cameras are going to go, and we install them, we give you training, and you don't have to really think about too much of it. Or maybe you want to do a self-install or do your self-install, which allows you to purchase the equipment, still utilize our US-based support team, but install it yourself because maybe you have people there that can run cables or can install the cameras, and you want to save some budget on maybe getting more coverage versus install. Whatever way is fine for us. We can do both options there, and we can kind of walk you through what might be the best option for you as well. So um, definitely want to reach out to somebody, whether it's us, to make sure that they know your unique challenges. They know kind of what's going on in the industry, what's popular with dealerships of your type. And one thing I want to kind of talk about too is cameras aren't always enough, right? If I go back to that slide, remember where we had all the break-ins and the car thefts and everything like that, they all had video, right? Um, and so what we kind of say is sometimes cameras aren't always enough, and I kind of put a preference here of on their own. So what does that mean? Well, most security cameras are passive. They record evidence, which is obviously very critical. You need to get that for insurance. You need to get that for potential fraud, everything else that, why cameras are 100% needed in every dealership, right? But they're not necessarily going to prevent a crime, so to speak, right? They're not going to intervene or do anything to prevent it for the most part. They mostly act as a passive deterrence. Some people may look at a camera and go, maybe I don't want to do it at this building because they seem to have a lot of cameras. But for the most part, most camera models out there are passive. I do want to mention there is a difference in what's going on now in the industry, and there's something called active deterrence. So what this kind of, and again, we actually did have a webinar on this as well if you're interested in learning more specifically. But basically, what it is the cameras have the ability to detect if there's a person there after hours. So you set a schedule and you say, hey, after 8 p.m., nobody should be around this area. And when there's somebody is detected after there, you can see that this will actually turn on a white light and kind of do a red and blue light there. And it also has a speaker built into it, which will yell at them and tell them to get away. And so what this is doing is sort of intervening a little bit more, right? Instead of just silently recording, it's there to let them know, hey, you're on camera and you're being watched, and now somebody knows that you're there because you can do notifications and everything like that. So this is a next level of what we call local active deterrence. And here's another example of that. And you can see that it brights up the area quite well, even though this is a dark area. And don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's just telling me to leave and to keep going. So active deterrence is a really good first step option for dealing with theft, vandalism. And there's some tips and tricks to make it even more effective than maybe some counterparts out there. Almost all of our active deterrence cameras can add your own, you can add your own audio to it. So you record a little audio file and you can upload it to the camera. So that way you have more of a personalized, message there. So one of the suggestions we use or we use and we suggest is to personalize it. Use a location. So for example, we're in Asheville, North Carolina. I might put a message that says you are trespassing, leave now, or I'll call Asheville Police Department. And that makes it much more real to that person there instead of it being a generic, hey, you're in the alert area, leave. The other big part about active deterrence, you definitely want to make sure your schedule is right for these. You probably don't want to have these things go off when a customer's there and scare them away or think that, the police are on their way and stuff like that if they're out there just car shopping, right? So make sure the times are set right, make sure it's only on when it should be on. Some of the pros and cons of active deterrence is this is an easy way of adding a notable deterrence, and it's there's no monthly fees or anything. It's usually pretty low cost. A lot of our cameras support this in some form or function, and it can also be used with push notifications. So you can get a notification on your phone that somebody was at your facility at 2 a.m. and that way you can see the video, intervene if you can, or even a local guard, remote guards can intervene with it too. One of the cons of active deterrence is that for dealerships specifically, some of them, again, we want that openness. We want people to be able to come to the lot, feel comfortable in this big purchase they're hopefully going to make. And these may not be aesthetically pleasing, especially some of the more overt ones that have the blue and red lights on them and everything like that. And the other side of it too is that some criminals and people breaking in and everything like that are sort of wise to what these are. They kind of know that when these first came out, they were very effective, and over time, more and more sort of know that, hey, yeah, this is going off, but it's not necessarily going to the police or anything like that. So they may not always be 100% effective. They're a good starting point, but they don't go all the way sometimes. So how do we kind of take it up a notch? And that's something called remote guarding. This is a service that we really suggest to especially our auto dealership clients. And basically what it is think about that active deterrence. Somebody is on your location at 3 a.m. Instead of it necessarily just doing a generic recording or your recording that you put in there, it actually goes to a professionally trained US-based remote guard. And they're going to watch that video and they're going to say, okay, is this person just happened to be walking through and they're not a threat? Or is this somebody now trying to get into this car? Are they trying to get into the building? And if they detect that it is a threat and they determine it is a threat, they can dispatch police. They can dispatch local guards. They can also do talk down functions to, specifically talk to that person, which makes it even more effective. And we'll show you some videos on kind of what that looks like. And just to give you an idea what this works, how this works, it uses some of our AI enhanced cameras and AI enhanced filters that they have on their remote guarding end. They get that notification that, hey, somebody's here. They're going to sit there and they're going to watch to make sure that this person is a threat. And if it is a threat, they are going to respond. And again, like I said, you can do police, you can dispatch a local guard, you can do a talk down via a loudspeaker or through the camera speakers, or all of the above. It's very customizable in terms of how you want to respond. And the guards. So no matter what schedule you're on, whether you want to have maybe you're open a little bit later and you want to have it start a little bit later, or you're closed, likely closed on Sunday, so you may want to have Sunday off. We can do whatever schedule that you want in terms of when this is actually being guarded. So whether it's overnight, 24/7, sometimes those crimes happen right during broad daylight, and some people still want to have that remote guarding capability. As I mentioned before, these are all US based. It's a UL listed monitoring station. It's customizable, talk about some, basically tell us what you want and we can most likely do it with our remote guard service. So again, yeah, talk down when we talk about why that's a key element, because one of the things that we want with remote guarding, right, is we want to potentially prevent the crime. We don't just want to record it. We want to actually intervene and try to prevent it. And what talk down is that remote guard is going to say, hey, you in the green shirt there, we see you. We're going to dispatch police if you don't leave. And when you have that personalization and you can actually call them out and they know not only is like, are they actually being, recorded and they're being alerted, but somebody is there actually watching it and the police are on their way. A lot of times that's enough for them to leave and prevent a theft, prevent vandalism. Um, and one of the things about dispatching police too is this is a verified video alarm. And typically for most areas that results in a much quicker response time because they have the road guard on the line telling them exactly where that person is, what they're doing, etc. Um, and then for some people, they prefer to dispatch like a local guard or a guard service. There's call trees, so you can call different people in different orders. And then just as importantly too, there's incident reports. So um, one of the great things about remote guarding is, if you're in the security of the dealership or you're a dealership owner, is that this is all happening while you sleep, right? If you try to do this on your own and you get a notification at 2 a.m., are you going to be awake to answer it? Are you going to be able to understand even what's going on? This is all happening overnight. So if they happen to have something and, you prefer not to hear about it until the morning, you're going to get a full incident report that tells you exactly what happened, what the response was, however you want it to. So let's put this in action. We have two real world use cases here. Each of them are from dealerships. These are also, we'll send you there so you make sure you can hear the audio and everything. And some of the audio has been changed to protect, private client info as well. So let's look at this first one. And this is unauthorized access happening here with a group of people, and they're getting into the car here. So now they're in the car and kind of looking around the car, everything like that. And at this point, the talk down function begins. So they basically tell them that you're unauthorized and you need to leave. And as soon as they kind of get that notification that somebody's watching there, you can see what happens. They run. So, oops. So to summarize that, the trespassers were called out by an external speaker. They stopped and ran away as soon as that talk down function happened, likely preventing that vehicle's theft or extreme vandalism. And again, this is all happening while the client's sleeping soundly. So they don't have to be woken up to know that, hey, we just prevented a vehicle theft on your property. Of course, you can if you want to as well, I should mention. And the second clip. So this is people stealing parts this time right off a vehicle. They're stealing wheels and rims. And you can see that local police are dispatched, arrive on site to apprehend the intruders. And they're arrested, which prevented the loss of valuable property. Let's play that one more time here, so this is pretty quick. You can see this started at 9:35. They did try to do a talk down, didn't phase them. 9:36, just a couple minutes later, the local police are dispatched, and that's one of the and by 9:42, the police are actually there. So that is one of the key parts is the reaction time, right? Guards react. Some of these thefts, believe it or not, actually happen over the course of hours. The ones I showed you there, that they're just there, having all the time in the world to grab keys and find the keys and everything like that. Some of these are happen within just a couple seconds, and I think sometimes I hear, well, you know, if these are happening so quickly, what can I actually do about it? Well, this is a really good example of how remote guarding can actually, even whether it's a quick thing like that, can still prevent it. And so the guard reaction happened in seconds. The police dispatched, suspects were arrested. This was all less than 8 minutes from start to finish. So again, that verified alarm meant a much faster response. And again, all this while the client's sleeping soundly. You're not getting notifications. You're not having to manage that yourself. This is all done for you. So remote guarding, what does this service kind of compare with? Well, if you compare it to like an overnight guard, that's likely going to be anywhere between 20 to $50 per hour, or up to 15 to $20,000 a month. And one of the other things is a guard can only be in one place, right? A guard can't be in, walking, seeing, being in his car while also really being able to utilize the cameras, right? So even if you have a local guard or you're thinking about adding one, remote guarding can be a very good way of making those local guards much more effective. It gives them eyes, right? So they can see an incident, tell the local guard, hey, on the front side of the dealership, we're seeing somebody kind of looking at the cars and they're jiggling the door, right? They can give them eyes that they may not have, especially if they step away for a second or anything like that. So um, a lot of people only deal with remote guarding. Some people combine both of them to make their local guards more effective. And the last part of this webinar we wanted to go over is sort of a success story when it comes to a dealership client. And this is a large auto dealership network. They are nationwide. So everywhere from Alaska, Hawaii, California, Texas. They have got 30 plus locations, 6 states that we've done, more in the pipeline. And one of the reasons why they love working with us is we have flexibility, right? The turnkey, for some of these, we did absolutely turnkey install where we went in, performed all the installation and, allowed them to stay out of it, right? To as much as they wanted to. They wanted us just to take care of it and they didn't have to worry about it. Whereas other locations, they had more resources in that area. And so they preferred doing a self-install that they could manage the install and save some money off of the installation cost. So that flexibility was very big for them. But you can see kind of the fact that we're able to do nationwide installation for all of these locations, is a big part of why they went with us as well. That consistency. And speaking of nationwide, one of the things that we offer, and I would definitely suggest that, especially if you have a lot of different locations, that you really focus on is the centralized control. So you want to be able to make sure that you can manage all of your locations, be able to access all of your cameras from one single portal. You don't want to have to open up a bunch of different software, open a bunch of different web browser tabs. This particular client has over 1,000 cameras, and they utilize our software. They do save views, which is a cool function where they can bring up all of their lobbies with one click at all their locations. They can export footage from multiple locations at the same time if they want to. We've got smart search capabilities. There's so much we could talk about with the software component for us, but obviously we only have so much time. We do have demo options. So if you want to learn more and get a sort of personalized demo with me or some of our security experts, we're happy to go over the software, give you a demo, and sort of let you know how this would work within your rollout. But needless to say, he's able to access all of his locations through one easy to use portal. And last part, I want to talk about just some of the products utilized here. So at SCW, we're very big into making sure the image quality is as great as possible. So you can see some of the cameras we use here are our 8 megapixel models here. This is our kind of our most popular fixed lens bullet camera and our fixed lens turret camera. So we're switching those out depending on where they're mounted, and what this gives them is really good image quality from anywhere between 50 to 75 feet away. They're going to be able to see a face. And with these two, you can see it's not a little harder to tell on this image, but we've got actually active deterrence capability on some of these as well. So, if he wants to turn those on at night, he can, or he can choose not to, whatever you prefer. But these are getting them image quality that allows them to, utilize insurance, utilize police and everything like that. Some of the specialty cameras used, like I mentioned, the Watchkeeper Dual Vision. This is a great camera because you're getting two cameras in one essentially, and it allows you to see the wider parking lot area, the wider vehicle area, and then also get detail. So again, when we talk about what we can do with PTZs in our next webinar, you're talking, being able to pan around and look at all your vehicles throughout the night. Do a bunch of different actions that make this a very valuable camera that allows them to get details that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. So we'll cover more about that in our next webinar. So definitely tune in for that. And then this other camera we have here is called the scope. This is actually a super wide camera. So we get to see, larger rooms or larger parts that, they don't necessarily need the most detail in the world on them, but they need coverage to see what's going on. Another place where they really like these is the service bays. This allows them to, you know, limit the amount of cameras that they need to install and maintain while also, getting good image quality and good coverage. And then the last component is our Imperial line of enterprise grade NVR. So we obviously have NVRs that range from small four channel ones all the way up to 256 in a single package, and you can use multiple NVRs, everything like that. In this one, we specifically set for 30 days of recording. So we make sure the hard drives are to spec to make sure that they're getting the playback they want up to 30 days of on-site recording. And of course, that's completely customizable as well. We have some dealerships that actually utilize 1 year of footage retention. So whether you need 30 days, 2 weeks, a year, 2 years, we can definitely build these systems out to make sure you're getting all of the coverage that you need, and there's redundancies and everything like that too. We can really dig in on all that stuff. So um, here's a stat that, you know, we were just talking to them, and we can't share the exact person just for a lot of people have to sign off on that, but he shared a stat with us that just kind of blew my mind a little bit, and think it will blow most people's mind when they talk about it. Prior to having our systems installed, this large dealership network was experiencing about $1.5 million in theft damages prior to us, right? And then after the first year, we first started installing a lot of those locations. It was reduced to $400,000. So massive reduction already in that first year. And then let's fast forward to the third year they're with us, which is this year. And they're actually currently, as of last month, only at 30,000 year to date losses. So this is a 74% decrease in their annual losses. Their investment in the system has paid for itself already based on, being able to avoid these stats, avoid these damages and losses. Pretty mind blowing. I probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't tell me straight up. So I understand if it's a little skeptical, but it's a real stat that a client shared with us. So um, you know, this is not an uncommon stat that we end up getting in terms of the investment paying for itself, especially with auto dealerships, right? Losing a car it could be a $50,000, $60,000 loss right up front. So if the system costs $25,000, preventing one theft, it has actually paid for it. So and that's kind of the end of this presentation. I will open up the floor to any questions and answers. And Dylan, do you have anything that you wanted to add to, or any questions that you wanted to mention up front?
No, I think you nailed it. I think as long as yeah, we will be sending out this recording with links to everything discussed right after this. And yeah, if you have any additional questions about our products or services mentioned today, you can just reply to that email or contact us through the website. Pretty much it. Nice work, James. Really interesting watching those videos of people stealing those tires is pretty wild. So,
Yeah, it's increasingly bold, unfortunately, too.
yeah.
So I want to thank everyone also for joining us today. And yeah, if you have any questions or you want to learn more about anything we talked about, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to learn more about the PTZs, we have that webinar next month, or talk to us. We'll give you a live demo of a PTZ. We'll tell you where it can be useful in your facility and personalize that for you. So, any questions you have, feel free to reach out to us and look for that follow up.